Hi and welcome to this week's edition of Straight Talking Sport. My name is John Winchester and joining me this week is Grant Elliott.
Hello.
Ryan Hodge.
Hi there.
And Kieran Pick.
Hi.
We're going to be discussing this week's main topics in the world of sport, and we're going to start off with the England football squad. It's been announced yesterday. They have friendlies against Chile and Germany, and 3 Southampton players, Rodriguez, Lallana and Lambert, have been called up. So Grant, are you happy with the squad that's been selected?
I am, really. I mean, I can't see anyone that's been left out that deserves a place. I think he's picked it a pretty good squad. I think Rodriguez, the form he's in this season, he probably deserves a call-up. And, you know, friendly's always the best chance to give players a chance and give them a cap, see if they're good at international level or not, so that Roy can see them ahead of the World Cup. The one thing I'd say is Joe Hart. Roy said yesterday that Joe Hart will start one of the games. I'm not sure whether or not we should play Fraser Forster and play him in both, seeing as what Joe Hart, he's been in such bad form lately that maybe we should give Forster a go.
We spoke about the goalkeeping situation a few weeks back. Ryan, do you think anything has changed? Do you think we should be playing another keeper in these friendlies?
Well, it was another costly error from Joe Hart, and not only has he been dropped from the Man City squad, I do feel that he should be dropped from the England national team. The only problem is England haven't really tried a different goalkeeper option to Joe Hart. Ruddy's played in 1 or 2 friendlies, and Forster, he's never been really called upon that much.
He's uncapped still.
He's uncapped. So I think it would be wise for him to start Ruddy in one match and Forster in the other. Maybe bring Joe Hart on for the last 30 minutes or 20 minutes of each match, so he does get a bit of a run out. Because I think it'd be better to have him play some rather than leave him completely cold. But other than that, I think Roy Hodgson has picked a decent squad. I think the Southampton players that have been called up, they've thoroughly deserved it. They've been fantastic this season. As Grant said, particularly Jay Rodriguez. I wouldn't say baffled me, but I'm slightly surprised to see 3 left-backs being picked. Unless he does want to try another option to Cole and Baines. That's why he's called Kieran Gibbs up. So we'll have to wait and see.
Kieran, do you think that anyone has been left out of the squad that's been playing particularly well this season?
I wouldn't say so, no. I think I'm pretty happy with the squad he's picked. Just on the Hart subject, I read an article by Sam Wallace in The Independent this week, and he was quite good at highlighting Hart was one of England's best players in the 2 games against Brazil earlier in the year. And I think it's in football, we kind of jump on the bandwagon as soon as someone has a couple of bad games. Everyone's on their back and everyone's trying to cause a bit of controversy and get Hart dropped. Personally, I don't think he should be dropped. I still think he's the best England keeper. And in terms of the Southampton players, I'm really pleased that Hodgson's kind of recognised that how well Southampton have been doing it and how much of that is down to the English core that they have.
He's picked players on form rather than just their reputation, which is something that Fabio Capello didn't always do and previous England managers failed to do.
But if you're picking players on form, then surely Joe Hart, if you should pick players who play for their clubs week in, week out. And Joe Hart's got to the point where it's not just a couple of games. He's made quite a lot of mistakes this calendar year. He's made a lot of mistakes. And Fraser Forster plays week in, week out for Celtic. And, you look at the performances that he's putting against Barcelona and the performances he puts in, week out. I don't understand why Roy's not giving him a chance.
Well, I would argue that Joe Hart, even if he's playing at half his best, is still better than Fraser Forster and Ruddy.
But can you afford to let Joe Hart play and then, I know it's friendly, so we're not going to lose anything major, but can you allow Joe Hart to, if he continues the way he is, on and off, up until the World Cup, can you allow him to play and make that one mistake that drops England out the World Cup?
I think it's too early to make that judgment. A lot will depend on whether he does keep making these mistakes. But just based on now, if the World Cup was tomorrow, I'd take that risk and I'd play him.
I think if you look at errors and form and performances of goalkeepers, because they are the last line of defence, and if they make an error that leads to a goal, which could either lose a point or lose 3 points, I think their errors and poor performances are much more
noticeable.
It's much more noticeable than if it was an outfield player. I mean, Michu, is it? He's not been as great as what he has been for Swansea last season, but he's not getting as blasted and criticised as what Joe Hart has, just for making a couple of errors. So I think you have to take into consideration that because a goalkeeper's role is perhaps more vital, so whenever he makes an error, it's far more noticeable.
I think you also have to look at Ruddy. When Joe Hart got dropped, Ruddy Man City played Norwich with Ruddy in goal, and Ruddy let 7 in. It could have been down to his team, but if we're looking towards the World Cup and which keeper we're going to take, is it likely that Foster or Ruddy are going to get a run out in the World Cup?
Well, I don't think 7-0 was completely all John Ruddy's fault. He did make a couple of mistakes, admittedly, but he didn't have a hand in all 7 goals. I think you're just going to have to wait and see in the next 6 or 9 months.
You've got to remember Ben Foster should be back from injury after January, and he's come out of retirement since Hodgins took over. So he's, in my opinion, he's better than Ruddy and Forster. So I think it will be a battle between Foster and Hart.
And do you think that any players will retire from the England squad after this World Cup happens?
Yeah, I think Lampard will retire, and I'm pretty sure Gerrard might as well.
Yeah.
Depending on how well Gerrard has actually said it's going to be his last World Cup, and I think Lampard said the same. So I think they'll be retiring.
It might be interesting to see what Ashley Cole decides to do. I think he's probably he's almost bettered with age. He's got better with age. So whether or not he feels he can perhaps continue his form into 2016, 2018 is almost certainly out of reach for him. But Leighton Baines isn't exactly a young player. He's 28. So
yeah,
if Ashley Cole decides not to retire and plans to play for England at the Euro 2016, and I don't know what Leighton Baines might think of it.
Well, it might not be Leighton Baines. He might not be get a consistent run of games. Unfortunately, Roy might. If Cole decides to stay until 2016, then after 2016 it will probably fall to either Luke Shaw or Kieran Gibbs that will probably take the place. I think Baines will just be sort of the experienced one as the backup choice. But going on the England squad and touching on what you said, Kieran Gibbs is being called up to the England squad, but I think I would have gone for a fourth Southampton player. I think I would have gone Luke Shaw instead of Kieran Gibbs.
Moving on to the tennis now, the ATP World Finals. Rafa Nadal has got through to the semi-final, and in doing so has secured #1 spot for the year. So has he deserved it, Kieran?
I'd say so. Yeah, he's at the start of the year, or Wimbledon summer season. I was a little bit sceptical because he was coming back from injury, and he took an early exit from Wimbledon, and I almost thought he should almost stop playing at Wimbledon and focus on the clay and the hard court seasons, because with an impact injury, with a knee injury like he's had, it might be better to manage his time away from grass and focus on the surfaces he's much better at. Then he went on to win US Open, French Open, and looking at his performance against Wawrinka earlier this week, he looks almost back to his best now. And I think Federer's declined. Djokovic has done okay, but in the majors he's not been quite as successful. Murray obviously won Wimbledon, but has missed the last part of the year through back injury. So yeah, Nadal's a worthy choice for #1.
Ryan?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, for a player to come back from multiple injuries in his knee, like what Nadal has done, and to win 2 of the 3 final Grand Slams of the year, I think it's remarkable. He's never been comfortable on grass. He's always preferred the clay and the hard courts. So seeing him win the French and the US Open, and obviously not doing so well at Wimbledon, it's great to see. I think he does deserve to be world #1 come the end of the year. Obviously, injury to Andy Murray through the latter part of the year, that's helped. Djokovic, he's not done as well as what he had in the past 18 to 24 months, and obviously Roger Federer getting older is not going to benefit him in any way. So I think Nadal thoroughly does deserve to be world #1.
And Grant, do you think he's likely to win the ATP World Finals that are happening right now?
Well, you look at his performances since he's come back from his injury, and he seems to be getting better every time he plays. So if he continues that, I think I would favour him to win it, considering he's, like Ryan said, he's won 2 of the last 3 major Grand Slam championships. So.
And Kieran, do you think the ATP World Finals is as competitive as it could be without the addition of Murray in this year's tournament?
It's a blow not to have Murray. I think he would definitely enhance the competition. Obviously, to have the home crowd as well. But it gives players like Wawrinka, Gasquet, Tsonga, players like that, a chance to perform on the big stage. I think it is looking like a 2-horse race though between Nadal and Djokovic. I can't see anyone beating them to get in the final, possibly Ferrer, but I'm still quite excited by the competition, even though Murray's not in it.
And with Roger Federer not winning a major this year, if he fails to do so next year, do you think he'll start thinking about his retirement?
Well, I was watching the BBC coverage of the Tour finals yesterday, and they was speaking about how he's already planning with Nike what kit and outfit he's going to be wearing for championships in 2015 and 2016. He's come out and said he doesn't think the aging process is a problem. He just thinks that his niggling back injuries has somewhat held him back from his performances this year. I watched his match against Richard Gasquet yesterday. He won it 6-4, 6-3, but he wasn't as convincing as what he would have been, say, 6-7 years ago. I think he's in denial that the aging process is limiting him. He thinks that if he limits the amount of events he plays and only plays in some of the major ones, some of the major championships and the Grand Slam championships, that his performances could increase. He could play better. But I think he needs to realise sooner rather than later that the aging process is limiting him somewhat. So whether it's up to him or his coaches to tell him that, I don't know.
And Grant, do you think that Djokovic can consider this year a successful year, bearing in mind he's not number one anymore?
No, I don't think it's difficult. I don't think he can consider it a success. I think when he looks back on his career, I don't think this would be obviously the highlight year for him. I mean, he won the Australian Open, but he's lost his number one spot, and of course, who would want to lose their number one spot in the world? It's obviously not going to be a highlight for him, but he's done. He's had a pretty decent year. It's not been an awful year by any standard, but I think he'll look at the Australian Open as a success, and maybe not the rest of the year.
I think he'll see this tournament as a way of resurrecting the year. If he can win this, I think he'll still be fairly happy.
I mean, obviously the Australian Open victory was a major championship, but that was without Rafa Nadal. And as we mentioned, Federer, you can claim that he's declining in standard, and Murray was the only perhaps big challenge left in the tournament. So even though it was a major championship, a Grand Slam championship, the Australian Open may not have been as rewarding as what he may have hoped.
Okay, moving on. Preparation has started for the Ashes Tour Down Under. The second and third day of the first match has been washed out, but in the first day, Michael Carberry hit a century. So should he be starting in the first Ashes test?
I think it will be interesting to see if he does. I personally would stick with Ruth as opener for the first test at least. However, if Ruth doesn't quite perform, I would move him down the order and stick Carberry in there. He's no spring chicken at all. He's probably in the latter stages of his career. So he's always been prolific for Hampshire. So I'd definitely give him a chance. It's just whether, because we've tried Compton in there and that didn't really work out. So I just hope for his sake that it's not another Compton scenario.
I mean, yeah, I agree with you that Carberry has been outstanding for Hampshire. I probably would like him to start the opening test against Australia. Joe Root in the summer series, the summer tour, when Australia came over here, at times he was outstanding and shined at times, but there were times where he could have performed better. So because of a slight inconsistency on Root's part, I think it wouldn't be hurtful or harmful to start Carberry. As you said, I don't think Compton's up to the standard that he could have shown for England. So out of Carberry or Root, I'd probably play Carberry in the opening test.
I think I'd probably stick I don't think I put Carberry in for the first one. I think I'd do what Kieran says and keep rooting and see how he performs in the first one before putting Carberry in. I mean, I think it all depends on how Root plays and how Carberry's actually going to perform. Yeah, he is in his latter stages of his career, but would you go for an experienced man? I mean, I don't know.
I think England's batting lineup is actually quite settled now in the Cook, Root, Trott, Peterson, Bell. That's a very strong lineup. And then obviously lower down the order, you've got Pryor, Broad and Swan to add extra runs near the end of the innings. So in terms of... I'm feeling pretty confident ahead of the series because in terms of the squad, I think we've got a lot of depth. And the fact we can call on people like Carberry if needs be, I think we're in a pretty good shape for the Ashes.
So what exactly does Michael Carberry have to do to get into the squad or into the team?
Well, just keep scoring in the warm-up matches. You can't really ask for too much more.
I think it depends more on not Carberry's form, but one of our other batsmen's form. I think that's what it'll depend on.
Yeah, if Root does start the opening test and he doesn't get a decent batting score in both innings, then I think it wouldn't be a bad option to bring in Carberry for the second test.
I think Trott's under a bit of pressure actually. He's been one of England's most reliable batsmen for the last couple of years, but I was a little... He always shows the little grit and determination that you want in a batsman, but he wasn't really getting the runs in the summer Ashes. So if he doesn't start scoring big runs in the first couple of tests, he could well be dropped, I think.
Thank you for listening to another edition of Straight Talking Sport. If you'd like to get in contact with us, our email is straighttalkingsport@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at JohnWin51. Grant is
At GDE93.
Ryan is
At Ryan J. Hodge.
and Kieran is.
At the Kieran Pick, spelled Kyran.
We've been talking, you've been listening. See you next week.
Thanks, Johners.